Happy New Year. Oh, how generous. Thank you so much. It says on the order of service, interview with Tom Hutchings. So I'm going to interview Tom Hutchings. Are you Tom Hutchings?
I am Tom Hutchings.
Yeah, great. Tom, you have been with us in our group of churches for 6 months now.
Yep.
Just over. Just tell us, why did you opt to come here to do a curiosity? Lots of different places you could have gone, different parts of the country, different sorts of churches. Why did you end up coming here?
Okay, so I was meant to go back to Norfolk, but they didn't want me. So, wasn't the right place. I had met Richard a couple of years ago, and we came up to visit and asked about what was going on here. And I was really excited by everything I heard about what was happening in the free churches here, and thought no more of it, thinking, well, David won't leave at the right time, and it won't work out. And unbelievably, we're looking for a place to go. We were praying that God would sort of give us some guidance and help in knowing what to do next. And the job came up here, and I must admit, I leapt at the chance. I think I applied probably before the job was advertised, let alone afterwards pretty soon. So it worked out really well, and I can't say how delighted I am that it all worked out.
Brilliant. And looking back over the first 6 months, what have been the highlights for you of the first 6 months here, do you think?
I think probably just getting to know people. Christmas was great because I like Christmas. It was busy, but I guess just feeling like I've got my feet on the table and got to meet, I think, most people now. It feels pretty great.
Brilliant. And it's quite helpful having someone with sort of new eyes, because a number of us have been involved in the church family here for quite some time. Others are newer. You've come with quite new eyes. What do you think we're good at as a church family?
Yep.
What are our strengths?
I think one thing is people talk about the wall of love that hits you as you come into the church. I think there's just a genuine sense of care for one another, people looking after one another in practical ways, praying for one another, looking after one another, caring for one another. I think that's a great thing. I think another thing I'd say is great is just that I think there's a real sense that people want to know what God has to say, that the Bible is being taught, that people are encouraging one another, teaching one another. I think those are great things. I think coming here on a Sunday, having brought along sort of friends of ours from elsewhere, just going away often, something they've said is just how warm everyone has been, how just warm it's felt after service. I think that would be a great thing. Brilliant.
There's an obvious next question, which is, what do you think we're weaker at as a church family?
Nice, uncontroversial question, isn't it?
Well, I've asked it, so...
Yeah. So I guess I had to add so many provisos to
Yeah.
This, but of course, I think one thing maybe that stands out is prayer. I think it's fantastic the way that people are praying. The prayer chain is a great thing. People are praying for one another, are praying using the prayer diary. I would say how we're praying maybe as a church family. Which, I mean, if you looked at the church family from the outside and said, what do they think is really driving what they do as a church on Sundays? Why do they think they're going to grow, that people are going to come to know Jesus? Would people put their finger on it and say, well, because as a church family, they're praying together lots, not just on their own, morning by morning in their quiet times praying for the church, but as a church family, they're getting together and praying in prayer meetings, in their small groups, just for the regular things that happen. Would we be convicted as a collective of thinking that prayer was what kept us going? That would be where I'd...
Okay.
I don't know if that's clear enough.
It is. And Tom, if that sort of struck a chord with some of us, just in terms of how we might address that practically, what would you... So if I'm sat in the pew, which clearly I'm not, I'm stood next to you, thinking, okay, hands up, that is true, I don't really make much of a priority of the church's prayer life together, what would you recommend as sort of a first step within that?
By coincidence, tomorrow evening is the start prayer meeting.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Goodness me.
It's funny. It's almost like we'd discussed this, isn't it?
It's incredible. And the person who leads the prayer meetings in the front row there. That's incredible.
And is about to lead into sessions.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So on that startling note, but in all seriousness, the church prayer meeting is the engine room, the driver really of everything else that happens in the church. It's where we gather as a church family, those who are trusting in Jesus, who are brothers and sisters, to really pray for all that we do. not just the emergencies, which we should absolutely be praying for, but also just for the bread and butter, week by week things that are going on. Whereas a church family, we can hear news from people about what's going on in the youth groups, so we can carry on praying for them. It's a way both to pray, but also to be a resource for prayer as we go away. So in many ways, I've said before, and I guess I'll say again, I think the church prayer meeting is probably the most important meeting in some ways of the month, because it's when we come together. God gives great promises to us when we pray together. And I guess I would want people looking from outside to say, they're people who really believe that their prayers will make a difference to the church family, that everything they do is driven by prayer. So my big tip would be, come to the church prayer meeting. Is it a date in your diary, the first Monday of every month, usually, with the occasional move for bank holidays and so on? Is it a date you say, first Monday of the month, I should be at the church prayer meeting, because that's what will make everything else this month happen. Brilliant.
Tom, thank you so much. Are we going straight into prayer now?
I think, yeah, we're going to go straight into our prayers.
Paul's going to lead us.
Paul will lead us.